Well, it's been a while. It's been a while since I've gone live on Facebook, a long while, and I think this is well worth the first Facebook Live, and I don't know how long it's been, way too long. Hopefully you've been joining me here in the tavern on Tuesday nights for those revolutionary strategies and tactics topics and discussions to try to save our country. But tonight, I think it's essential that we go live on our old format where we used to be all the time. And frankly, I kind of miss y'all. But this topic absolutely has to be discussed. So because I haven't done this in a while, I need to make sure that I've got all my buttons working and my microphone working and everything firing correctly. I know because we haven't done. It's been so long since we did this. We're not even in the algorithm anymore, so most people aren't going to know that we're here. Let's see if we can get an audio check here. Somebody let me know if the audio is coming through okay, if the picture's coming through okay before I get started, because we've obviously got a lot to address with this guilty verdict of Donald Trump. So my Facebook page is saying that my video is not is too high quality. Are you guys getting video? If you are, then I'm going to jump in. It's been so long as I did Front Porch Live that I cannot remember which. Okay, now I think I've got the right buttons pushed here. Okay. Well, I'm going to try it anyway. It says that my stream is too high res, but it's because I've got my studio camera. It's the only one I had available to me. Anyway, listen. Here's why I say it's good that Donald Trump was convicted. All 34 counts. It's good because, well, first of all, I love that Jocko video where every time something bad happens, he says, "Good. I'm glad that happened. Now I'm going to get stronger. I'm going to get better." I think that's biblical. I think that comes straight out of James, where it says, "Count it all joy when you experience various trials, knowing that it's being used. God's using it to perfect us, make us perfect and complete, teach us perseverance." On a more practical level, this is good because, listen, this has been happening to other people for a long time. If Trump had been acquitted, people would have thought, well, the system works. Everything's okay. See, he had his day in court, and everything's fine. He didn't get convicted. That's what people would think. It's just like when the praying grandma, Rebecca Lawrence, when she had to go to D.C. and be put on trial, a sham trial by these Marxist, I don't know. There's no nice way to say it. When they manipulated the trial in order to get a conviction of the praying grandma for praying in the Capitol for 10 minutes, we knew that the system was broken. Right? When they prosecuted a pro-life activist for supposedly assaulting someone when he was literally protecting his son, and they barged into his home at 5 o'clock in the morning, guns pointed on his children, and then they prosecute him. When those kind of things are happening to average Americans, when you have people that are in jail right now in the gulag in Washington, D.C., who have been in solitary confinement for 2 of the last 3 years without a trial, you know that due process is dead in America. The problem is people haven't realized that it's dead. It hasn't happened to them. So if you haven't been on the receiving end of this evil, you don't realize that it's there. You think the system still works. You think truth, justice, and the American way is still happening. It's not. And so when a guy like Donald Trump, the most watched, most listened to man on the planet, gets prosecuted / persecuted in this way, a trial is one thing. Everybody thinks, he'll be, it'll be not guilty. They're just harassing him. It shouldn't happen, but it's happening. They're doing it to keep him off the campaign trail, but it'll all be okay in the end. When he gets found guilty of 34 counts, when you have a judge that is so compromised, so corrupt, that his own daughter is profiting from the trial, when he's an absolute Democrat hack who is only allowing things to get in front of the jury that's going to help the prosecution with their corrupt, unconstitutional, violating the statute of limitations, all the stuff that they're doing, when all of that is going on and everybody's just kind of not even paying attention, doesn't really care, once the verdict is guilty, all of a sudden people wake up. All of a sudden it's no longer hypothetical. All of a sudden they start having images in their mind of the President of the United States in a jail cell. The President of the United States having to run for president from a jail cell, the Secret Service having to figure out how they're going to provide protection to the President of the United States in a prison. When that starts happening, people start paying attention. And that's why I say good. Because now, and I don't mean good for Donald Trump. I think this is horrific what's happening to him. I think this is one of the greatest, maybe the greatest legal travesty that we've seen. And no, not the greatest. There's been some really bad ones that for an average Joe person that does not have the platform that Donald Trump has, it's all bad. There's no upside. I think there's an upside on this for Donald Trump. But it is bad and evil and wrong what's happening to him. No question about it. But it's good for the country to have to finally face our demons. We have to finally face how broken our system is. And for those of us who have been in this fight for a long time, for those of us who love the Constitution and love the law, who have been grieving over the fact that our legal system has been so rigged for so long, who know what it's like to have the system trying to destroy your life, and you don't have the money or the resources or the platform to fight back, all of which Donald Trump does have. Thank God. I'm glad that he does. But for those of us who have been on the receiving end of this in the past and not had those things, there's not much you can do. You feel the weight of tyranny and the boot of government on your neck and the helplessness of being unable to fight back. Well, Donald Trump has everything it takes to fight back. And the fact that they found him guilty is going to make millions of Americans wake up and pay attention to this for the first time. I think it settles the election in November. I mean, this is going to cause so many more people to come to Donald Trump's side. I've actually said this for about a year now, that all of these attacks on Donald Trump, all of these trials, all of these charges are actually going to cause him to win the Republican nomination. I didn't know until now that whether or not it would help him to win in November. I do absolutely think it's going to help him in November, not hurt him. So I think it is vitally, vitally important that we recognize what this does in terms of the good. It wakes up people. It amplifies the evil. It brings sunlight to the corruption that's been happening underneath for decades. And we've had corrupt DAs across this country for decades. I was on the receiving end of this 20 years ago at a much smaller level. I've watched people's lives be destroyed. And then since January 6th, it's been amplified to the nth degree, the evil that they've been willing to perpetrate on truly, not helpless, but truly innocent people. And then people that are guilty of smaller crimes, things that should require some sort of punishment, but very little compared to what they've actually received. It is absolute evil, and it is destruction of the things that made America great in the first place. Can we just stop for a minute and realize why Donald Trump's theme is Make America Great Again? It's Make America Great Again because America was the greatest nation in the history of the world. There is no doubt about it. Most powerful, most free, most benevolent nation the world has ever known. There's a reason that America had all the inventions and all of the prosperity. There's a reason that we exported most of the missions around the world. We took care of people around the world. We exported the gospel around the world. We made other nations, helped other nations come out of poverty and helped them to adopt free enterprise systems and constitutional republics and things that bless them. We were the greatest nation on the planet. and we watched our nation be transformed into a third world banana republic because the Marxists got control of the legal system. And once they were able to use the power of government to put the boot of government on the neck of average, ordinary American citizens, that greatness was gone. Once the people that believed that power was more important than right or wrong, that there is no truth, that it's just about power, no moral absolutes, the Declaration of Independence was hated by these people. They've been trying to destroy it for years. The idea that we hold these truths, that there's a creator, that we have rights given by God, not by government. They mock us for believing that. They call us nasty-sounding names like Christian nationalist or dominionist or whatever, and then they tell us the reason they call us that is because we have the nerve to think that our freedom comes from God and not from them, not from not from government, and not from these elitists that believe they know better than us and they should be able to control our lives. They should be able to micromanage everything that we do, from our property to how we raise our children to our health care and what we inject in our bodies. These people are the height of arrogance and evil, and they have the power to destroy our lives. And they're trying to do it to Donald Trump, and I say good because it highlights it and makes everybody realize if they can do it to him, they can do it to me. And so for those who have not been on the receiving end of injustice, those who have not had the boot of government on their neck for the first time in their lives, they're looking at this and going, if they can do it to that guy, they can do it to me. And they're waking up. Why do you think Donald Trump had, whatever it was, 25,000 people in the Bronx the other day? Why did he have 100,000 people at his other rally? Why are people coming out of the woodwork that are Democrats saying enough is enough, I'm done with this? Why are they flocking to Donald Trump? Because the left has made him the poster child for what can happen when a nation goes off the rails and becomes a third world power-grabbing entity. And I say good, because we needed this wake-up call. People like you and me, we've been screaming this from the rooftops for years, and some have been listening, but since 2020, millions have been listening. And after today, tens of millions will be listening. And it will give us the momentum we need to take our country back. And I know that phrase scares you to death if you're one of these wimpy, be nice Christians that thinks that we're not supposed to be salty. Well, if we're going to be salt and light, we got to be salty. We got to be willing to get in the fight. We got to be willing to dig deep, say the things that need to be said, sometimes in anger. I think if there's a time to be righteously angry, today is one of those days. This is no day to be nice. Speak the truth in love. Well, sometimes love is tough. Sometimes it's tough love that saves your child from going off the rails and destroying their lives. And sometimes it's tough love that saves your nation from going off the rails and destroying everybody, not just America. We're the last best hope. There's no doubt about it. And if we go down, where are you going to go for freedom in this world? We will enter what Ronald Reagan said would be 1,000 years of darkness. And so if we don't wake up, if these kinds of things that are happening right now to Donald Trump do not wake up enough people, then we're headed into a tough times period that could last generations. And I know I've said it a million times, but for those of you that might be hearing me for the first time, we are just now entering the tough times. This is just a little glimpse of how bad it can be. The cycle of nations is tough times making for tough men make for good times make for soft men, and soft men make for tough times. And we've had it so good in America for so long that we've become soft. And we've been unwilling to come to the aid of those who have been abused over the last couple of decades in our justice system. We've been unwilling to stand with those who needed us to defend them. We've been unwilling to be the defenders of the defenseless, unwilling to be the terror to the terrorist, unwilling to be dangerous. We've played it safe because of the good times. And the good times has made us so soft as a nation, such snowflakes, that we've been unwilling to stand when needed. And now we're watching our justice system be turned on its own people. We're allowing people in power to destroy lives. We allowed, over the last 4 years, those in power to kill millions of people through their bad policies and through their power grab, just because they wanted to micromanage everything in everyone's lives. They silenced those who could have saved millions of lives through treatments. And they forced policies on people that caused millions of lives to be lost. That was just child's play compared to what can happen. Look at what happened in the last century in nations where this was not stopped, where Hitler came to power, where Stalin came to power, Pol Pot. You go down the list. You go down the list of these tyrants. 100 million people died in the last century because of it. Can you imagine if those types of people end up in total control of the United States of America, the most powerful nation in the history of mankind? If the evil Marxists get control, complete control of this nation, right now they have control in many ways, but we have just enough power to stop them from going completely off the rails, and we have a window of opportunity now to hopefully reverse their power and reverse what they've been doing to the nation. But just imagine for a moment, if they get the kind of control that Hitler had, if they get the kind of control that Stalin had, unlimited power, no checks and balances, no ability to say no. Right now, up until now, the individual has been attacked. The individual has been persecuted and prosecuted where they could not defend themselves, and they have had to live with that, sometimes die because of that. Now you're getting close to where they have the kind of power to do that to the whole nation, like Hitler did with Germany, like Stalin was able to do. That can and will happen in the United States of America if we don't stop it. And the conviction of Donald Trump on absolutely bogus charges with strung together statutes and an out-of-date statute of limitations and a corrupt Soros prosecutor and a corrupt judge, because of that happening to Donald Trump today, we have a chance for that to wake up enough Americans to prevent it from happening to everyone in America. Donald Trump himself has said over and over again, they're not after me. They're after you, and I stand in the way. So he knows that what he's doing right now, he's taking the lumps for us. He knows he is being persecuted and prosecuted for us. He's standing right now in the way of them totally taking over. And not just Donald Trump, Rebecca Lovrance, all of these J6 defendants, anyone that has stood up for truth and been attacked by the left. The question is, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do in this moment of truth, this inflection point where we are watching our nation teeter between liberty and tyranny? What are we going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? Is this going to be enough to make you get off the sidelines and not just complain about what's happening, but actually do something about it? Is this kind of abuse of power going to be enough for you and me to say, you know what? I've had the good times. These are not the good times anymore. And we're fooling ourselves into thinking it's still the good times. People are still out there just playing golf and you know, having a great time and pretending that nothing's going wrong. There are people out there that are actually thinking, oh, Donald Trump probably just deserved this. You know, I never liked his tweets anyway. They finally got the guy. You know, maybe now we can be done. There are people that are actually thinking like that. They have no idea what's happened here. They have no idea just how bad this is for the country. They have no idea how corrupt the justice system is. It's like, you know, I mean, my goodness, speaking of golf, look what just happened to Scotty Scheffler. I mean, this guy's did one of the nicest guys in professional sports, and he's been going through hell for the last couple of weeks because of an out-of-control police officer and then a justice system that it took him a few weeks. Now, thankfully, the prosecutor in this case did the right thing and said, obviously, I've reviewed all the evidence. There's nothing here. That's how the justice system is supposed to work. So maybe I need to be saying the good, the bad, and the ugly like we used to do on this Facebook Live or Front Porch Live, because mostly bad and ugly, but that one came out today, and that's a little bit of good. That's showing you that the justice system can work. What are we going to do about it? What do we do between now and November? What do we do with a bunch of corrupt prosecutors and judges that are in power right now? What do we do with the Department of Justice? You talk about, you know, they say you can't fight City Hall. Forget City Hall. The Department of Justice is a massive behemoth. The FBI? Are you kidding me? I mean, I'm telling you, a couple years ago when we first started speaking out against the FBI, we got phone calls saying, don't do that. Got people in very high positions of power saying, hey, guys, don't do that. You don't understand how powerful they are. You don't understand how quickly they can destroy your life, which, of course, made us double down, made us say, oh, well, all the more reason to stand up and say no. So what are we going to do since they already have so much power? How do we respond to a corrupt system that is corrupt enough to take down someone as powerful as Donald Trump? Actually, I don't think they've taken him down. They think they have. They think they've gotten a good shot across the bow here. I believe that it's going to make him even stronger. This is an Obi-Wan Kenobi moment. They've struck him down. He's going to rise even stronger. Listen, Trump is not the savior. Okay, don't get confused by what I'm saying. Trump is a man, and he's a politician, and he's a person that is in a position of power who is actually quite selfish, and in many ways it's all about him, right? We know that, okay? He's got his narcissism just like anybody else in politics. But the fact that they're doing this to him is going to make him more powerful. It's going to cause more people to rally to him, and that is good. He is the only guy in America that I know of that could withstand all of this and turn around and still win the election and have the gumption to go clean house at the DOJ and a lot of these agencies. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Rick, wait a minute. He just praised the FBI for their new building because he's the one that pushed the new building through. Again, it all comes back to him, right? I know what you're thinking. If he's going to do that, how could he possibly reform the FBI or the DOJ? And I don't have a good answer to that. I think it's absurd that he's praising the FBI and supporting the idea of this new building. That should have been defunded by the Republicans in Congress. Shame on the Republicans in the House for continuing to fund the abuse of our American people through these federal agencies. But I have come to believe that Donald Trump is actually a master at this game of politics. I've seen some masters at this game. I mean, I think Barack Obama was a master at the game and continues to be. In fact, I still think he's the guy pulling the strings for Joe Biden. I think Ronald Reagan was a master at how to play this game, at knowing how to use the right rhetoric and sometimes use rhetoric that was causing people to go look over here while he's getting things done over here. I think Donald Trump's the same way. I think he knows how to say something that gets you going this way, and over here he's actually solving the problem. And so my prayer is that's exactly what's going on with his praise of the new FBI building. And if that's the case, then I think this conviction, again, is good, because this is going to add fuel to the fire. This is guaranteeing. You know how they radicalize people? You talk about people being radicalized. Like, we always hear stories of some, Middle Eastern kid whose parents get blown up in some attack, and it's the CIA from America, or it's Israel or whoever, and that kid goes on to become a terrorist, for whoever. I mean, you hear stories like that, and they make movies like that. Anyway, Donald Trump is being radicalized for the Constitution. That's what I think is happening right now. Donald Trump is being radicalized to be so passionate about due process and free speech and freedom of the press and all of the things that he's seen be abused. He's being radicalized to be a champion for due process. This is essentially how it works. I mean, why was it that Jefferson gave 27 grievances that then we would create in the Constitution protections to prevent them from ever happening again? So in the Declaration of Independence, Jefferson talks about the abuse when he says that when any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, what he had just said, we owe these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, government instituted among men deriving their just powers from the consent of government. All of that, the ends that he's talking about are truth, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Consent of the government means the ability to give or refuse consent. So right now, we have a government that is destructive of these ends, destructive of life, destructive of liberty, destructive of the pursuit of happiness, preventing you from doing what you want with your property, with your business, destructive of consent of the government because they're manipulating the election process to where we can't even know whether or not our elections are secure, destructive of the ability to participate in giving or refusing consent. How do you give consent if you're going to be arrested for simply showing up and peacefully protesting? I mean, they are destructive of the ends. So what Jefferson say, when they're destructive, when any form of government is destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it. Now, I'm not for abolishing. I'm for abolishing certain departments of government, but not for abolishing our system of government. I'm not for in any way abolishing these things, but I am for altering them back to what they were designed to do. And that's what I believe Jefferson was telling the American people to do. Now, of course, he goes on to say prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. Accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they're accustomed. We're in that moment right now. The American people have suffered. Wait, let me take that back. Some of the American people have suffered and just said, it's not that bad. You know what? I'm paying 40% in taxes or 50 or 60%. It's not that bad. I'll suffer while these evils are sufferable, right? We've watched our fellow Americans suffer at the abuse of the federal government in the justice system or by the Soros DAs, and we've let it go. We've suffered while those evils were sufferable. We've watched people be absolutely harassed by their own government. And you've allowed the government to micromanage your property, and we suffer through it, thinking if I can just get this permit and just get this done, then I can move to the next thing. We're having to do that at Patriot Academy right now with our campus. We're suffering while the evils are sufferable. But then his next line. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing inevitably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such governments and institute new forms. Now, folks, that's where we are. It's a long train of abuses and usurpations. Now is the time to alter it back to what the Founding Fathers intended. And that's why I say Donald Trump guilty on 34 counts, good. Because that evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism. Do you see what I'm saying? The conviction of Donald Trump shows people that we're in that moment when he says that a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing inevitably the same object evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism. What else could this be? When you take out the political opposition, the leader of one of the two major parties in the country, the nominee for president of the United States, the nominee for the most powerful man on the planet, the former president, when you do everything in your power to take out that person so that your party can stay in power, that is evincing a design to reduce us under absolute despotism. It is our right, it is our duty to now give of our lives, fortunes, and sacred honor like never before. This is the inflection point and the moment where you and I must commit, pledge to each other our lives, fortunes, sacred honor. And that means I'm asking you, more than ever before, quite literally, give up the game of golf. Sell the car, sell the extra rental house, whatever it is, and start investing everything you've got right now into saving the country. Because now is the time. 2024 is the time. If we don't do this now, we're not going to have a country to save. Now is the time for you to start a Constitution class in your home. I know I sound like a broken record, but if you're not doing a Constitution class in your home or your church right now, you're not doing everything you could be doing to save the country. We know beyond a shadow of a doubt what happens when you start a Constitution class. When you do biblical citizenship or Constitution Alive or one of our other classes in your home or your living room, it creates a momentum in your community. And we need these brush fires of liberty all over the nation in order to turn this thing around. So even if you don't take over your school board or turn your city council around right now, immediately tomorrow, what you're doing is creating a brush fire of liberty that together with the rest of these quite literally thousands, tens of thousands of brush fires of liberty right now through Patriot Academy are being started all over the nation. We have thousands of classes. We have 1 million people that have been through. If we do not put 4 million more people through these classes and have 10,000 candidates and 100,000 coaches in the next 2 years before the 250th birthday of this document, I believe we're done. I think that's the measurement of whether or not we responded to the moment. This is the inflection moment right now. Donald Trump guilty on 34 counts, absolute sham of a trial, and it's waking up everybody to realize there's been thousands of these sham trials convicting average Americans, ruining their lives without the money or the ability or the platform to defend. Now it happens to the President of the United States, and enough people wake up and say, that's wrong. Whatever happened to due process? What happened to being able to confront witnesses against you, to be able to call witnesses for yourself, being able to make your case, your day in court. We always say that. Oh, don't worry, you'll get your day in court. As long as I get my day in court. We're not giving people their day in court. We're not allowing people to present evidence. Donald Trump was not allowed to present his entire case, most of his case. So the judge manipulated what the jury was going to be able to hear. Same thing happened to the praying grandma. Same thing's happened to all these J6 defendants. When all of that is destroyed, we don't have a country. And we're going to reach a point where it's not able to be saved. We're in 1933 Germany right now. Eric Metaxas said this on the tavern when I had him in, and we were talking about the movie that he just made, Letter to the American Church. And he said, Rick, we've got about a year. We're in the 1933 moment when Dietrich Bonhoeffer gives that famous speech to try to wake up the church. 26 years old when he did it. And he said, we don't have much time. And they didn't. It was 2 years for them. It was 1935, and Hitler had all the power he needed at that point. He was dictator at that. It was no going back. Well, I'm hoping it's not a year. I'm hoping it's 2 or 3 years. I really believe 2 years from now, 2 years and 30 days from right now, 2 years and 35 days from right now is the 250th birthday of the country. I think that's the amount of time we have. So it's not just the 2024 election. It's not just Donald Trump in November against Joe Biden. It won't be Joe Biden. It'll be somebody else. But it's not just this presidential election. It's, are we going to take advantage of this inflection point in our history? Are we going to take advantage of this window of opportunity where millions of people are now going, wait, what? They convicted him for what? An accounting error? They convicted him for what? This moment right now where the praying grandma has been convicted for going in the Capitol and praying for 10 minutes. This moment right now should awaken, or has awakened, millions of people. What are we going to do to rally those millions of people? I'm telling you, it has to start with education. I know that's not sexy, and everybody wants to grab the pitchforks and storm the hill. That's the dumbest thing you could do. Responding to this conviction with violence would be the dumbest thing you could possibly do. You would be begging for the whole movement to die and be shut down and true tyranny take over tomorrow. Do not be stupid and do that, okay? The way this works and the way we win is by starting with education of ourselves. It begins with you. It begins with me. We are the closest, the smallest level of government. Self-governance begins with the individual. So you get into a biblical citizenship or constitutional life class, and then you invite your family, your friends over, and you grow from there. And you start educating the people in your circle, and you start telling them about it. Say what is it that's wrong with this Donald Trump trial? And what's been happening to these other people? Did they get to call the witnesses in their favor that they wanted? You know how long I got to testify for the praying grandma when I went to her trial in D.C.? About 3 minutes. And then they objected, and kicked me out. What due process has been violated with the people that you know? Have they had their houses searched without a warrant or without a specific warrant specifying the places and the papers and all those things? I mean, I'm telling you, folks, we are living the writs of assistance that James Otis warned about in 1761 that John Adams said was the birth of independence. That's happening right now. Our FBI, our DOJ, the federal government is doing that to individuals all over this country, and they finally did it to Donald Trump with the raid on Mar-a-Lago, and again, it started waking people up. We could talk about these things. People could learn. So conviction of Donald Trump on 34 counts, good, because now people are paying attention. Now they're awake, and Donald Trump is radicalized to be a champion of the Constitution. He's always been a champion of the basic ideas, and he had good gut instincts on how it should work. But now, you look at the difference. You look at the difference in his interviews now and 5 or 6 years ago. Why do you think when he got elected in 2016, after he had been chanting lock her up at all these rallies, that when he got in 2017, he praised Bill and Hillary Clinton? Because he bought the lie that, oh, that's all just campaign rhetoric. When we get in office, we're going to do what's best for America. He believed that because he's a pro-America patriot that loves our country. But he didn't realize that these radicalized Saul Alinsky, leftist, Marxist dirtbags, that they only care about power, that they want to radically transform America, and that they will use any means necessary. They'll lie to your face, they'll cheat, they'll steal, they'll do whatever it takes to win. End justifies the means. I don't think he believed they were like that. I think he really believed they were just playing campaign stuff, and then they would all pull together to save America. Now he knows otherwise. Now he knows these people hate America. That's what he said in the Tucker interview last summer. So you take where he already was last summer, you add today, you look at his eyes in that mugshot, you look at his eyes today when he walked out of there, I'm telling you, this guy's radicalized to the point that he's radicalized to the Constitution, that he's going to defend the Constitution, and he's going to be a champion for restoring due process. So where do we go from here? How do we do this? How do we respond to a system that is so broken and that is so taken by these leftists and these radicals that hated America their whole life, and now they own the power structures. Now they're controlling the machine. How do we fight within that system peaceably? How do we avoid the bloodshed of a civil war in this country? How do we avoid the chaos of having to somehow split this country? How do we restore these principles in all 50 states and restore our nation to greatness? It is not going to happen overnight. While this is an inflection point where we have a chance to change the whole thing, it's going to take a generation from here to be able to turn it around. And that's why I'm telling you, it's not going to be the grab the pitchfork and storm the gates. It's going to be grab the books and study and gather other people together and study with them, and then go out and take massive action and sacrifice. You're going to have to give up some things. We're going to have to sacrifice financially. We're going to have to sacrifice with our time. Many of you are going to have to run for office even though you never wanted to do that. Many of you are going to have to sacrificially give to the candidates and the causes to make it possible to win. It's going to take that, and it's going to take a generation of doing that. Now, in the meantime, I think not only is the presidential election going to be massively important, it's going to be a lot of these races down ballot, and it's going to mean more than just voting. We always say, do a registration drive at your church, get people to turn out to vote. That's obviously got to be done. And when only 25% of Christians are doing that, clearly we got a lot of work to do there. There's great organizations pushing in that direction, and we need to keep doing that. So hats off to Faith Wins and My Faith Votes and Turning Point Faith and all of these groups that are doing that. Praise God for them. We partner with all of them. We provide them with all of our materials. Keep doing that. Very, very, very important. But it's going to have to be more than that. It's going to be more than just voting. It's going to have to be taking the time, quite literally taking the time to volunteer as a poll watcher for 3 weeks during early voting. It's gonna take the time to potentially be there the whole time watching and then reporting and being tied into groups that can help monitor those things. It's going to take funding the lawsuits to enforce the election laws and to challenge where we know they cheated or where we suspect that they did and be able to fight that battle after the election. It's not going to end on election night. I know we all want it to, but it's not. And I'm not just talking about president. I'm talking about all the way down the ballot. This is the warfare that we've been called to. Thankfully, we're having, I said it for years and years, we want a revolution with ballots, not bullets. I never thought the revolution, the war, would be over the ballots. I thought it'd be a revolution with getting people to show up and vote and use a ballot. Now it's a war over the ballots and the balloting process. So this is all going to take time. It's going to take effort. It's also going to take a willingness to think outside the box and be willing to engage in areas that we maybe didn't think of engaging before, in the arts and entertainment and media, and doing those things that the left did for the last 80 years. They're winning right now because they spent 80 years scratching and clawing in the trenches to take over the institutions that would influence America. So we have to do the same thing, and we have to raise up influencers, raise up people that can actually win over. That's why we call it the Navy SEALs of civics, because we're raising up young people. I'm going to leave next week. We start our leadership congresses across the country. So we're doing Colorado next week, and then Arizona, and then Idaho, and then Florida, and then Indiana and Delaware, and then our big one in Texas at the Patriot Academy campus. All of this effort is to raise up a generation of the Navy SEALs of civics, people that understand how valuable this is, that understand why what's happening to Donald Trump right now is a revelation of the rot underneath in the culture. It's not just a crack in the foundation. It's showing us that underneath we're about to have a sinkhole like the Corvette Museum from a few years ago. All right? That's why it's so important what's happening, but we have to educate people to understand what's happening and then know how to respond to it and prevent this whole thing from falling off the cliff. And so we're going to all these leadership congresses to train these young people. And then at the end of the summer, And I invite you to be a part of this, because there's nothing like being around other people. That's why when I say take a Constitution class, I don't mean take some online class by yourself in your room, reading a book or watching a video by yourself. I mean, that's great, but that's 1990s, and it's not working anymore. You need to be in a room with other people, either on Zoom with the chat open where you can see each other's faces and talk to each other, or in a room in your home, at your church, with your neighbors and your family, so that you watch these classes and then you interact talking about what's going to happen. You'll realize you're not alone. You'll realize there are answers to save the country. There is a formula that works. People that are desperate right now and saying it's all over because of this conviction of Donald Trump, I say no. This reveals the rot. This reveals the problem. There are answers. There are solutions. There are inputs that will change this and give us good outputs on the other side. But you have to know what they are, and that's why education is key. I saw somebody saying that in the chat. I think it was Tony. You got to have the education to know truth. Get rid of the ignorance. We all have to solve our ignorance. Ignorance is curable. Let's do that together. Know the truth, and then take that truth and use it, apply it to set yourself free in your community, in your state, and across our nation. And so that begins with these classes. Become a coach. Start hosting the classes. But come to Fredericksburg, Texas, to our campus, so that you can do that in an environment where I promise you, this is like boot camp for saving the republic, all right? This is where you go for your boot camp as a citizen, as a patriot. When you come to Fredericksburg and you do the Patriot Experience, you'll be a legislator for a few days. So you'll be on our House floor. We're building a House chamber right now, committee rooms, the whole 9 yards. It's going to be done July 28th. When you come experience that, you're the legislator actually writing the law, learning how to pass the law, or you're doing a convention of state simulation, or whatever it might be that we're doing that week for your time at our campus. That Patriot Experience gives you the chance to understand civics from the standpoint of how it actually works. Not just I'll be a good citizen, I'll go vote. How does our system work? How do you work the system for positive change? That's what we teach people how to do. We're really good at this. Okay, this is our specialty. So when people say, I don't know what to do, we know what to do. We know how to work the system in order to change it over time. So come to Fredericksburg, Texas, do the Patriot Experience with us. You'll be a legislator. You'll learn how to defend your family with all this chaos and the crime that's happening right now. If you don't know how to use a firearm to defend your home, I watched this family today, or yesterday. I was watching last night on social media. This family that gets home in where were they? Somewhere in Mississippi. Somebody that saw it, you might can share in the chat. Jackson, Mississippi, I think it was. They get home and they pull up in their driveway, and they're getting out of the car, and these thugs walk up, firing their guns, and this family is cowering around, crawling along the ground, trying to hide behind the car. I think it's a guy. I don't know if it's the husband or not. If he's a guy, he's a soy boy, let me tell you. But he's trying to, they're literally crawling. He's halfway trying to hide his wife, I guess, or the other woman. If he's a woman, I don't know. It's hard to tell, unfortunately. And they're literally cowering around, running around, trying to hide from the people with the guns, hoping they're not going to get shot, while their kids are in the car. So your family, these thugs are going to drive away with your children, or they're going to shoot your children or shoot your wife, and they have no way to respond. That is such a sad state of affairs for America. Any American ought to be armed and dangerous. And I mean be dangerous like you're the one that can put the gun violence on the dirt bag and stop that kind of nonsense. The fact that these people did not have a firearm and they weren't trained to present that firearm and stop the threat right then and there to protect their children, protect their home, forget the car, but protect themselves, just ridiculous. I was ashamed to watch it happen. Ashamed. You watch that video and you just want to throw up because it's so disgusting that an American family could be accosted like that in their driveway by these thugs stealing their car. In fact, I think the funny part is they couldn't get the car started. They did finally get the kids out of the car, and then the thugs couldn't get that one started. And the way I read it, this wasn't in the video. They went and stole another car from the same family. Just embarrassing, ridiculously embarrassing. Don't be that guy or that girl. I'm not just talking to the guys. I'm talking to the girls too. You got to learn to defend yourself. And the more of these Soros DAs and the more of this insanity across the country and the more they only prosecute the good guys and not the bad guys, the more important it is. So that's why we've incorporated that as well into our Patriot Experience. Not only will you learn intellectually how to defend the Constitution, how to defend the nation, how to persuade, how to speak in front of a room, all that stuff, You'll also learn how to physically defend yourself in the moment so you're not these goofballs in Jackson, Mississippi that look like, I don't even know how to describe it, crawling around. I mean, don't ever let that be you, okay? That would have been me the first 40 years of my life. I was the fool in Proverbs 27:12. Proverbs 27:12 says, a wise person foresees danger and takes precaution. A simpleton or a fool walks blindly on and suffers the consequences. I would have been that guy had I been the one in that car when the thugs walked up, and I wouldn't have been able to defend my family. I'm disgusted at myself by that fact, by knowing that would have been me. Now, thankfully, for the last 13 years, not so. If those thugs had walked up on my car and tried to do that, they would be, unfortunately for them, done, and my family would be safe, Lord willing, if I performed with my firearm the way that I do in training. Now, side note, you're always going to perform at about 50% of your last training because the adrenaline and all those kind of things. So don't just come to Patriot Academy and get trained once. You got to do it on a regular basis. It's a perishable skill, which is why we built the Patriot Academy campus with the nicest ranges on the planet, and you need to come and be a part of it. Come join us and go through the Patriot experience. Get trained to defend yourself. Get trained to defend your family. Get trained intellectually to defend this document and restore it in our country. That is the answer to what we're facing. Because you know what? I know what's going to happen. You'll get trained. You'll help to raise up a family that's trained. You will run for office. You'll have kids that go to law school and become the judges that will not be corrupt, but will actually do blind justice, biblical justice, equal justice. And we will turn this thing around. I see it happening already. I got 3 Patriot Academy grads right now in law school at Regent University learning how to defend this document, and they're going to be the judges and the lawyers. Isaiah says, I'll give you lawyers as at the beginning, judges as at the first, then you'll be the righteous city. Well, that means as long as these jackwagons that are in charge right now in the court system are in charge, we're not going to be a righteous city. But if we can raise up lawyers as at the beginning, judges as at the first, meaning they've got the wisdom of Solomon, they've got a biblical foundation, and they're coming at this from a biblical worldview, then we will once again become a righteous city. That takes time. That takes money. It takes effort on your part and my part. What does it take? Lives, fortunes, sacred honor. Yours and mine. We got to give more of it. Now, let me give you a couple of upcoming opportunities to be a part of the solution, because we got a lot of cool events coming up that I want to tell you about. First of all, by the way, I see Tony right there. I was terrified of guns. I took the constitutional defense class at the end of March. I'm completely set free from that fear and ready to defend my children if I have to. Yes, that's why we do what we do right there, Tony. God bless you. Okay, we've got one of these constitutional defense events coming up on July 4th. So how about coming and spending Independence Day with us at the Patriot Academy campus? We're going to have a big fireworks show. David and Tim Barton and myself, we're all 3 going to be there. So you'll get to train with us. You'll get to do Constitution studies with us. You get to do fireworks with us. Get to have fellowship. It's going to be a great time. July 4th. Now, that's going to fill very quickly. In fact, we're over half full already. So make sure you get signed up quickly, get your travel planned, and come spend July 4th with us. That is, what is that? That's only 5 weeks away. And I think I saw that somebody already put the link in there for the Constitutional Defense course. Now, if you're in Dallas-Fort Worth, I would love to see you next Friday at New Beginnings Church. We're going to be doing a Comedy and Constitution. I'm going to be talking about this Trump verdict probably in that Comedy and Constitution. So we'll laugh part of the time. We're going to cry part of the time. And we're going to walk out of there motivated, fired up, and equipped and ready to take our country back. And then June 9th, I'm going to be speaking at Fredericksburg, the Bridge Church, which is next weekend, not this coming weekend, but next weekend. That's the church that our family goes to, and I'm going to do the services that morning, and Brad Stein will be there for a Comedy and Constitution that night. So check that out at our website, patriotacademy.com as well. And then if you're up in Idaho, June 15th, we're going to do an event on the evening of June 15th. That's a private event, invitation only. If you want to be a part of that, make sure you send a note to info@patriotacademy.com, and we'll get that to the right folks and see if we can get you invited to that event as well. There was something else that I was going to mention before I got off. Well, by the way, when I say the Patriot Experience is going to start happening after July 28th, what I mean by that is July 28th through August 3rd is our National Leadership Congress. This is where we have 100 students, 16 to 25, doing a legislative simulation, and we have 100 military veterans and Constitution coaches of all ages doing a legislative simulation. That's going to happen at the Patriot Academy campus in the Newhouse Chamber. In fact, it'll be the first activity to take place there. We're building that out right now. And by the way, thank you. Thank you to all of you that did give of your life, your fortune, and your sacred honor to help us get this phase 1 of the campus done. That House chamber is going to be ground zero for restoring liberty in this country. And so many people have donated to help make that happen. $1.7 million is what it's taking to get this phase 1 of the campus built out. That's a small portion, by the way. That doesn't count buying the land, putting in the ranges, all that stuff. That's just for this House chamber and committee rooms and the offices, getting this first phase of this part done. And some of you stepped up big time in helping that to happen. You gave for our matching grants. We've already done 2 of the matching grants completed. We've got 2 more going right now. Wonderful couple out of Dallas donated $250,000 as a matching grant. So we're trying to match that right now. Not trying, we are. And Lord willing, will be done by July 28th swing finish. And then another matching grant came in for $200,000. So we've got a $450,000 pot right there that we can use to finish this if we match it with 450. And we've already matched 100 of it, so we only need to match it with 350 more. Please consider being a part of that. You can even sponsor a desk in the House chamber, and you get to pick what the emblem's going to be on it. It can be your state seal from your state, no matter where you're from. We're even going to allow places like California. Anyway, it can be your state seal. It can be your state flag, your state quarter emblem, like Massachusetts has that cool Minutemen, or maybe you want to do an appeal to heaven from Massachusetts, or if you're a Texan, do come and take it. Anyway, you can sponsor a desk on the House floor. You can sponsor your state seal around the room. You can even sponsor a full committee room. Lots of options there. Please check that out at patriotacademy.com/campus. patriotacademy.com/campus. Click on the giving catalog, and you can sponsor to make that happen. So those are the things that it's going to take to turn this thing around, folks. I'm really missing doing these Facebook Lives. Maybe we need to start doing them again. I sure miss getting to see your comments and do this. But the tavern is I think doing a good job of providing that outlet for now. What would y'all think about us starting to do a live tavern? So we do the tavern, but we do it live from the campus. All right. As soon as we get moved out there, that's the direction I'd like to go. So maybe we'll start being able to do that in the fall. Okay, let's see if we can get some questions in here before I have to go. We're going to be on Flashpoint here in an hour and 10 minutes. So we'll see you on Flashpoint tonight. Let's see here. Yeah, Bruce, I totally agree. Too many Christian churches don't believe in taking part in political activity. That's because they bought the lie of this separation of public life, private life. There's almost like this secular spiritual split, which is insane, right? Like, if you're a Christian, what part of your life is the Lord not Lord over? If you're a believer and you say, okay, God, I give my life to you. Thank you for your word. Here's the Bible that's gonna instruct me in my life. This is my instruction manual for life. But all this stuff in here about how government works and how to treat your neighbor and all that, I'm gonna ignore that because somehow a Christian is not supposed to. What? I mean, where did that even come from? That's insane. You would never drive away from your church and say, what a great sermon on how to be a good husband or father or wife or mother. Wish we could use it, but, separation of home and church. People do that when it comes to politics. They're like, great sermon on how to treat your neighbor. That we should be treat others the way we want to be treated. That's a biblical Christian idea, and that's all politics is. Every law we pass at every level of government is how do you treat your neighbor. And we're going to leave out biblical instruction for that? Christians are going to not be I couldn't agree with you more, Bruce. It's a shame. It's anti-biblical. I don't think you can make a biblical argument for not being involved in what's going on in your community and in your state and your nation. You certainly can't make a biblical argument for being silent while evil is happening. You're watching the justice system fall apart and you're going to sit back and do nothing? That's the wicked and slothful servant in the parable of talents. If you're burying the talent of freedom that you've been given, citizenship comes with responsibilities. You have a responsibility in a constitutional republic to let your voice be heard. We, the people, are in charge. We're the boss. And so if we're saying the public servants get to do whatever they want, the people we hire to go run this entity known as our country and our state and our local, and we're not going to hold them accountable? We're not going to call them and see what's going on? We're not going to be the boss at all? We're not going to actually be the ones that are in charge? I've said for years we shouldn't call these people elected officials. They're public servants, and they work for us. And churches are not going to instruct their members on how to do that biblically? How do you biblically hold your state rep accountable? How do you biblically stand against a school board that is allowing pornography into our schools and allowing teachers to groom children How do you do that biblically? Well, you can do it biblically, but you need instruction on how to do that. Well, who best to do that? Your pastor. Who best to do that? The church. That's why we do this course called Biblical Citizenship in Modern America. Biblically, how do we act as citizens in a constitutional republic we know as America? Get the class, folks. If you haven't done the class, you need to do it, and you can be the leader in your community that makes that happen. Lee asked about the cost for the academy, and is there an age limit? So we do a couple of different ones, Lee. We do our youth leadership program. That's 16 to 25. So you got to be high school, college, law school, in that age range, 16 to 25. That one costs about $300 to $500 for the regional academies around the country. So Colorado, Florida, Delaware, Indiana, Arizona, and Idaho. All of those, they're $300 to $500 roughly. Actually, Colorado's a little less because we have some wonderful sponsors there in Colorado that have underwritten a big chunk of it for us. So I think it's only like $150 to go to Colorado. And I think that's next week. That may be shut down as far as applications. And then our big one, our national one, is normally about $1,000, and that one's full. That one's a full week. That's the full 7 days. And this year it's already full. But once we get the Patriot Experience going in the fall, so make sure you're on our email list. If you're not signed up, go to patriotacademy.com and you'll get the email notices. When we start doing the Patriot Experience, that's basically a leadership congress at the campus for people of all ages and the handgun class combined with that leadership congress. That one's going to be about $100 a day. So if you do a 4-day version, it'll be about $400. If you do the full 6-day version, it's going to be about $600. Very inexpensive. I mean, like the least expensive firearms training you can get anywhere from the best instructors on the planet, on the best ranges on the planet, with fellowship with the best patriots you've ever known. So anyway, can't beat it. Actually, we are doing Patriot Academy classes year-round, Chris. Absolutely. Let's see. Be dangerous. Thank you, Alan. Absolutely. Love it, love it, love it. Got some people running for office in here. Good deal. Oh, well, Steve, that's a great question. How can JBSers think we can defend against the systematic changes to the Constitution without Article 5 Convention of States? Yeah, without doing the Constitution, you're not going to save the Constitution, right? Without using the Constitution itself says when you need to make changes here, there's only two ways to do it. When the system is broken, that when any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, right? That's where we are. This form of government has become destructive of these ends. So how do we properly constitutionally alter our government back to what it was intended to do? They gave us the tools right here. It's called Article 5. You amend the Constitution. It's a check and balance. All this is a check and balance. Just like you have president, Congress, the courts, they're supposed to check and balance each other. But in addition, federal government, state government, local government, they're supposed to check and balance each other. And I shouldn't even do it like that. It ought to be like this. If Ken Ivory's out there watching, he's going to correct me on this because his charts are just like this, and they're right. Federal government's over here, small, few, and defined powers, and then over here is state government, and it's supposed to be the big one. It's supposed to have most of the power. So check and balance. If the states are doing something they're not supposed to do, the feds can check that power. If the feds are doing something they're not supposed to do, the states can check that power. Problem is the states haven't done it. They're not doing their job. Constitution gives them the power to do it. States stand up and check the power of the federal government, just like you did with the 11th Amendment, which overruled a bad Supreme Court decision. The federal government, through the Supreme Court, was doing something it shouldn't have done, a misinterpretation of the Constitution. So in order to correct that, the state said, actually, it wasn't a misinterpretation. It was a change of original jurisdiction on suits from people outside of a state suing that state. Anyway, bottom line is the states didn't realize how that might end up being abused. And so they quickly overruled the decision of the federal government and said no with the 11th Amendment. We need to be doing that all the time. The states have to step up to the game here. They have to start saying no to the federal government. And that's what we train people to do. One of the things we train people to do. It's all about the citizen doing their job under the Constitution. So couldn't agree with you more, Steve. Absolutely, we have to use the Constitution to save the Constitution. Joan likes that idea of doing the Tavern Live. Thanks, Joan. I think we will. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, become a coach, Colleen. That's exactly right. Well, Dave, I see in here a couple places you're saying, nothing's been done to correct the election abuses out there. I just disagree, man. There's been a lot done, not enough done. I mean, believe me, I'm a guy that lost my first race by 20 votes out of 30,000. Had a recount. We put our hands on every ballot and we recounted every single ballot, and I won by 36. So I appreciate having paper ballots and the ability to recount and legal remedies if they don't allow you to recount. That's what we have to get back to. Until we get back to that, we're not going to have confidence in the system. There's going to be, there's always going to be attempts to cheat. That's the only way to mitigate the attempts to cheat. So I agree to some extent. Well, I only agree with the fact that the system's still broken. There's still a lot of election integrity problems. I don't agree that the problems are so bad we just shouldn't participate. Let's just give up, man. Let's just curl up in the fetal position, throw up our hands, and grab your guns and canned food, go hide out at the ranch. No! That's a 10 spies from the promised land. It's too hard. The giants are too big. The fortified cities, we can't win. That's that kind of message that depresses the people, and the entire generation has to die in the wilderness. I ain't doing that, all right? I believe we can restore the system and get election integrity again, but it's going to take time. Are we there yet? No, we're not there yet. That's a big reason for doing a convention of states. Who's going to count the ballots at a convention of states, right? No mail-in balloting at a convention of states. No cheating at a convention of states. This is transparent for everybody. We all get to watch the process. And then when it goes back to the states, so it only, by the way, don't forget, a convention of states is only a suggestion convention. It's a meeting where the state legislators from across the country will come together and they'll propose amendments to right the ship, to shift power from the feds to the states. And then those proposals will go back to all 50 states, and in each of those states it'll be debated, and 38 of them will have to say yes. All of that transparent to the public. No absentee balloting, none of the stuff that we have to worry about cheating. So it actually is a really good reason to be for a convention of states. If you are concerned about election integrity, you should be for a convention of states. You should be for amending the Constitution to fix the election system through a system that you can't cheat in that system because it's obvious. All right, anyway, sorry, getting off on too many tangents. Oh, let's see. If we're going down swinging. I like that, Tony. All right, guys. I went longer than I planned. I really was just going to comment a little bit on the verdict, but let me end it this way. Do not give up. Okay? I'm no Winston Churchill by a long shot, but never, ever, 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 ever give up. We're going to fight them in the streets. We're going to fight them in the air. We're going to fight them on the beaches. That's what Churchill said. He saved England. He saved Europe almost single-handedly. Little help from the Americans. But he had the optimism and the steadfastness to say we're never going to give up. Bombed every day. Everybody's saying it's over, that you should give in. Most people in his own government telling him that. And he refused to give up, continued to fight, infused into his people the backbone necessary to withstand until victory finally came. We got to be like that. We got to say, man, I'm going to fight at the school board. I'm going to fight at the legislative. I'm going to fight on the congressional races. I'm going to fight in this presidential race. I'm going to fight for the heart and soul and minds of these young people that are coming up. I'm going to be out there willing to have the conversations. I'm going to have the lunches with my kids and grandkids that might have gone off to university and gotten co-opted by all this Marxist stuff. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to intrigue, and I'm going to have civil discourse. I mean, that's how we win this long term. That's why I keep saying get in to a Patriot Academy Constitution class, because the civil discourse and the give and take and the discussion that takes place will absolutely give you hope. It'll infuse backbone into you so that we can withstand how long this battle is going to be. This is not going to happen overnight, okay? This is a generational battle. In fact, a lot of the corruption and a lot of the Marxism that has been infused, the poison that's been poured into the hearts and minds of these kids for so many generations, it's going to take generations to get that out. We're not going to win all that overnight. We have to win the big ones. We have to get our foot in the door, stop them from being able to close us into total tyranny. But we're frankly going to be planting some trees through a lot of the stuff we're doing right now that we're not going to enjoy the shade of. And that's okay. We're going to do our part. We're going to stand and fight. We're going to do our duty, and we're going to leave the results to God. That takes time. For John Quincy Adams, 17 years fighting against slavery, 17 years without getting to see victory. All right? For us, it might be 30 years, might be 40 years. I don't know. But I do know we've got a window of opportunity right now to recruit people into the movement and to inspire our fellow Americans to get engaged. This is no time to say it's so bad that it's all over. This is exactly the time to say it's so bad we have to get involved right now. Let this be a wake-up moment. The conviction of Donald Trump on these bogus charges, the conviction of Donald Trump and the manipulation of our justice system, the conviction of Rebecca Lavrance, the conviction of all of these other people, the abuse of our system is a wake-up call. And you and I need to use that wake-up call and say, we know how to change this. We know how to fix this. We know how to turn this thing around. Raise the banner, my friends, and I promise you there are patriots right there in your neighborhood, in your family, in your community that will rally with you. They will become a part of the solution with you. But you've got to be the one to stand up and say no. You've got to be the one to say, terrible things happening? Good. That's going to motivate me to fight even harder. Failure in the last election for whatever office? Good. I'm ready to fight for the next one. That's going to motivate me even more to win. Take a knockout punch? Good. That's going to cause me to train even harder for the next fight. Can we do that as citizens? Are we willing to be like professional athletes or professional musicians that face all kinds of failure after failure after failure, or what people think is failure, but it's really the necessary training and honing and sharpening to get them to the point of being able to be the best that they can be at what they do. That's why I started with James. Count it all joy when you experience various trials, knowing that God is using those trials to teach you perseverance, to make you perfect and complete, lacking nothing. We're facing some tough times right now. Good. That means God is using it to make us even better. And in the long run, I believe we can hand our children a renewed America. I believe that 2 years and 35 days from right now, we're going to celebrate the Declaration of Independence and its 250th birthday with a renewed America. I believe that 2 years from now, we're going to have a massive celebration all across America, not only a big party right there at Fredericksburg at the Patriot Academy campus, but celebrations of brush fires. It's going to be with these little brush fires of liberty that we're starting now. They're going to be roaring flames of a celebration of patriotism, renewed patriotism in our country, because we once again can be proud of America. We once again can be proud of our legal system. We once again can be the righteous city because we once again have lawyers and judges as at the first. That's going to take a lot of work on your part and my part, but I'm in it for the long haul. I hope you are as well. I pledge to you my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor. Are you willing to do the same? Have a good one. God bless you.